Good morning, this is Norma Cowie, and once more I'm here for Norma Talks. As this is the first Wednesday of the month, I have done a reading for the month of May, and I was going to share it. I have practiced every month that we've done this, and today, for some reason, it doesn't really come up as well as I would like, and I'm just going to put it up what the reading is, and we may change how we do this because I can't seem to get it off. It's gone on to, anyway, I use word perfect a lot, and it's gone on to a word perfect and I can't seem to move it, but I'm going to show it to you so you can see it all before I begin interpreting it. And that's, so just ignore my word perfect information at the top because I'm going to go through this for you because I haven't really read them. I'll put the cards out, but I haven't really read them cards. So we're looking at the month of May, and it begins here with a lot of projection, thinking about what's coming, where we're going, how it's going to be. And it's very, very good. This is abundance. This is clarity. This is ease. Everything's flowing. And that takes me up actually to about the 10th. Well, seeing that we're at the 5th now, it's a 5 more days. So there's a lot of optimism, we'll say, that's happening. But then a lot of uncertainty comes in. And in that uncertainty, there's a lot of, I feel a sense of confusion with it, though this is not necessarily a confusion card. I feel the confusion as it's like there's opposition, there's an uncertainty, we don't know what's happening. And so we're a little, and this is always a bit about being unbalanced because of actions coming towards you. And so I just think from the 10th to maybe around 14, 15, and we move into this symbol here. So there's going to be other aspects that are going to show up. This is always something that you're resisting, what we're resisting. And in the sense of our resistance, we're looking at how our life is, how it could be, how we want it. Why is it not like this? Why is it not like the way we want? And yet it says, no, here we are. This is coming in regardless. Just give it your attention. And so consequently, as we move into the 20s, I think, we start accepting and moving forward. And now we begin to see what was projected back here in the beginning of the month, beginning to take place, beginning to manifest more. And that leads to this King of Pentacles here, which is always in command, being very aware. I just feel that when I look at this row here, up to about the 23rd of May, what you've got is some situations coming in to us, because I read this for North America, really, is coming into us, and then it becomes solidified. There's an acceptance that goes on and it becomes solidified. And then as we begin to move through the 20s towards the end of the month, there is resistance. There is resistance about what is occurring, what is happening, how it's looking, what is taking place. And then comes, I don't know, money, energy being distributed by those who feel they have it to distribute. Is this the beginning of the new reset? I'm not sure. Is this the beginning of the new money element that's coming in? There is resistance to that, but it's like having to deal with that. I'm really drawn to the money part of this. This card does not always talk about money to me, but I'm really drawn to the money element on this. It's all up in the air, but how is that going to be working? And so as we move in towards the end of May, this unfortunately is not, don't think I can make it bigger. This is Chariot here. I'm going to hold this up because I'm going to stop the share for the moment. Well, I haven't finished with this. So this is leaving behind the old and getting ready to move ahead. So to me, this May is very, very up and down and very much newness coming. And if we look at the sideline here, the idea is being projected, wanting to maintain, but unfortunately we have to leave behind the old as we move ahead. Same thing here, accepting and working through the direction so that there is a distributed, things are being distributed. So again, so we're ready to move into a newness. There's newness coming, definitely by the end of May, some new awareness, but a lot of resistance. This is all resistance to this change. Resistance here to the change. Resistance not wanting to budge, a lot of stubbornness, a lot of an awareness. And yet it seems as though in the beginning it really looks up until around the 10th, like, oh, everything is coming together the way the majority of people may want it and feel about it. And then things begin to take a little bit of a turn, working out. But at the same point, that whole element of this, I really always found that this is being in command of what's going on and what's happening. But again, resistance to the ideas and the concepts, even though maybe they'll say, this is how it is, this is what's going to be happening, and this is how we're going to be. So I'm going to stop that nasty share, and I'm going to put this so we can show you this card right up front. What I like about this symbol is that there's a lot of balance, and he's in command of where he wants to go and how he wants to be. And the past is behind him. And I think no matter what we say or do, the past here is what we consider of the past, because even if we look at there's two other symbols that talk about what you've obtained. In the King of Pentacles, he's sitting in his castle, but there's also the castle behind him. And that's what you've obtained. That's what you've created. But in this 6 here, where where you're distributing the money, what do we got back here? But we got a castle as well. This person has created his castle, has the means, has the wherewithal. These are, we're being sort of balanced. Do we deserve to have this or not? So I just think there's going to be turmoil coming. It'll be interesting to see what June brings. When June comes along, maybe I'll figure out how to share this again and effectively. But at the same point, what I see here is that I really like the beginning part, but man, it gets a struggle. There's a struggle here. And even though there's lots that maintain it, there is a lot of resistance. And so it does amount, as I said, with this Chariot at the end, the leaving behind the old as you move ahead. Perhaps some new dictates, perhaps some new mandates of how things are going to be that we may not all like. I trust and hope that is not true. But, you know, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today, actually, because I wanted to talk about flexibility. I didn't really know those symbols were going to show that how we're going to deal or work with this. Now, the interesting thing is, how flexible, I think that's what I was going to talk about today. Yeah. How I looked over at my notes, which is covered over with something else. So how flexible are we when things come down? Like we get mandates, you know, you can't go outside, or you can't go and eat in restaurants, or you can't travel here, you can't travel there. And a lot of that we just have to accept, because if otherwise we're running into the legalities of things. But how flexible are we in our own beingness? How flexible are we in our own understanding of how life is working? Right now, life on the outside is not as we knew it. Right now, we're having to deal with all sorts of can't do's rather than do. And if you're going to do, you have to wear a mask, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. We're not used to that, at least not us older guys anyway. Maybe young people will grow up with that in another 20 years. It won't make that much difference to them, because they'll be used to being commanded and directed and given orders. But most of us were raised in the era of free speech, of realizing we can come and go. Basically, yes, we have to maintain a certain decorum, or we have to obey a certain amount, but it was easy to do. I mean, I've traveled the world, and now I can't even go to see where my son lives, which is only 5 hours away at this present time. So dealing with these restrictions, for many of us, the isolation, especially for older people, especially in homes that have not been able to really see their families and felt love and felt a support in that, there has been a tremendous shift and change in what's happening, and it's not over. That's the whole thing. It's not over. Those of us that remember stories that we heard from Europe in the Second World War, and before that and after that, and other European countries, we kind of go, whoa, we don't like what we're hearing, we don't like what we're seeing. And so even though they say this is necessary and this is for your health, and there is an underlyingness. So how flexible are we in dealing with this? Because it looks like another change is coming in. More mandates, more rules, more whatever. Maybe, I know the Great Reset is being set in place. Nothing seems to stop. I've been observing and reading and looking at that for a long time. So how is there flexibility? I could say, how is your acceptance? Are you willing to accept all these things? Because in accepting them, you have to become flexible. You have to be able to almost like obey those rules, or you can get into trouble. And I live in a small apartment complex, single level. There's only a few of us here. Well, there's probably more than what a few means three, I think. There's more than that. And then we had, because the people who look after the complex that I'm in run many tall apartment blocks, smaller apartment blocks, they had an edict came out, no visitors have to wear a mask. Well, there's a few of us here. We're lucky we have garden suites, you might say, because we can step out on our patio in the greenery. But I tend to use the main hallway. There's various reasons for that. So in the beginning, when the mandate came down, to a large degree, we all ignored it. We walked the halls without masks. We didn't obey any 6-foot ruling. We just met and talked because we don't see each other very often because we do live in our apartments. And then one day, one of the caretakers, you might say, of the apartment happened to come in and notice that some people were standing close together at the post office boxes where we get our mail and talking without masks. Well, next thing we all had on our doors, have your masks on, no visitors, really, but very strong language. And so that was when I began to realize, well, I can't be too flexible here because I like where I live. I like a lot about it. And it's have to obey certain rules. We all have certain rules. I mean, when we went to school, we had rules. And I grew up wearing a school uniform, so I had to wear a school uniform. And they even got down to how high your knee socks had to be from the top of your knee. Oh, lots of little rules. I grew up with a lot of rules in a country that did have quite a few rules. But all of a sudden, it was like we had to think before we go out. So guess what? I actually have a mask that consistently is on my door handle, so I remember to put it on because as soon as I'm out of the building, it comes off. But that has been our area that we've been fairly low in cases and things like that. So we tend to walk mask free. Maybe a little bit of defiance there, but it's healthy. I can't breathe too long. But anyway, I'm a little off topic there. But the thing is, how flexible are we when these rules get more and more and more restrictive? If you're younger, I think that you go along with them without thinking. I think it's older people who've heard the stories from people from Europe. I think the older we are when we're used to, as I said, traveling the world. And there were a few countries I still would have liked to go see before I'm totally done here. Flexibility has a lot of aspects to it. Are you flexible in your own personal schedule? I have a schedule. I wake up around the same time and then I do this, 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 and this. I see clients by phone and Zoom these days. So I have those registered. I have appointments with doctors and specialists and things like that. They all have to be scheduled. So in those cases, I'm not that flexible. And I realize I'm not a super flexible person in lots of ways. I'm very organized. I am able to done all the things I've done in my life because I am organized. Sometimes you see my house, you would not think so, but I am organized and I do know where everything is. My secretaries used to come in and say, how do you handle this desk, Norma? And I said, well, I know where everything is. I know what pile I got to go to for this, that, or the other. But those days have long gone. Now we're dealing with mandates, which are not laws, but we seem to obey them. We have all sorts of other suggestions of different things. We have lots of censorship. We have lots of restriction. And I don't know why I am saying this today, but I think it's because when I see that, I see more coming. And that is upsetting because I'd like to see a bit more freedom. I have some trips planned in my mind that I'd like to do, and I need to be able to do those. So am I a little disappointed with the reading of May? In a sense, yes, because I love to see, I'm going to put this up again, the Empress, abundance, love, everything being there. I love seeing where's that the King of Pentacles, which was here somewhere, and he's got, oh, there he's hiding behind the restriction. I love the King of Pentacles because it means you're in command, and that's what we need to be, is in command of our life. And this too, the changes happen all the time anyway, within our personal lives and with others, and it's just leaving, but this is really leaving the past behind. But also, when we look at these two wand symbols, the resistance, the uncertainty, and then the major resistance, this is how it is. So, to leave on a cheerier note, I want to say this. We actually have a phenomenal strength within us. We are resilient. We have survived millennia of time. We have survived famine. We have survived floods. We have survived war. We have survived locusts. I'm thinking way back because I read that there was a big thing I saw a picture not too long ago of a big thing in locusts in, I forget it, I think it was some form of Africa, but they were moving. And there was talk about them moving even into North America. We survive. We are survivors. And no matter what the regime, no matter what is being dictated, we need to have faith in ourselves, and we need to have flexibility as how we handle those things that we don't like in life. Life wasn't not always a bowl of cherries, as we know, but there's so much delight to have. I know I quite often will grab a tea, because I don't drink coffee anymore, and go down and watch, and I live near a lake, two lakes actually, and I'll go and sit and look at the lake and watch the birds flying in and out, the different, right now we have ducks, and they are so cute as they pair off, birds that are making nests. So there is a great deal to enjoy and be flexible about, as long as we have movement, as long as we have restriction. I know my family in New Zealand, someone was saying the other day, I was saying, well, I can't get to Vancouver because we're not allowed at this point to step out of our health district. And she said, hey, we got restricted to 1 kilometer. You have it good. So you see, there's always a win somewhere if we just have to look for it. So I really want to thank you for listening today. I really want to thank you for the subscriptions, the likes, the comments, and especially for those that also watch on Sunday mornings when I do a Sunday Thought. Wish you well, give thanks for you, and just enjoy life. Enjoy and be happy. And remember, flexibility is important when it comes to restriction. And enjoy. God bless.